Hello and welcome to Happy Cells and Souls. My name is Julie Powers and I'm a licensed Zumba instructor and I'm a business partner with the Juice Plus company. And my missions in life are to help people understand that life is better when they're dancing through it and to inspire healthy living around the world. But my expanded mission is to create better health at the cellular level and more joy at the cellular level. Because I believe we only get one body while we're here, so we have to take care of it. And while we're here taking care of our bodies, we need to spread joy and love and light in the world. And I love talking to people who do that on a regular basis and who impact the world in positive ways. And that brings us to these conversations where I get to talk to a bunch of different remarkable people that do impact the world in amazing ways. And what I've learned is that it doesn't matter if we share the same beliefs or political views or opinions. We can learn from everyone if we just keep our hearts and minds open. So today we get to talk to Faith and Julian Affrime. And these are some really fun people that I've gotten to spend a lot of time with over the last year. My husband and I have been taking ballroom dance classes with this fun couple. And I would just love for them to share their story with you. And so Julian and Faith, if you could just tell us a little bit about your story, like what is your love story? How did you meet and how did you end up bringing dance to so many couples?
Well, it didn't begin with dancing. It sort of began with Israel and cats, but would that be a good...
If the love stories, that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our relationship began with Israel and cats, and dance came in later. We connected on a trip to Israel, and to kind of keep it short, we did Hebrew together, and I found an orphaned kitten that she helped me take care of. And that was how we initially met. And during that season, we ended up going our separate ways. But another cat came into my life, and I had to tell her about it and show her the cat. And so she was still in Israel. I was not. And
it was 4 a.m. my time.
Yes. And so a Skype call. I watched the sunrise in the background of her screen, and I fell in love as we were talking, and 7 months later, a very intense kind of online courtship, and then I went to Israel, and well, I visited her in Israel and eventually moved to Israel, and after a couple of years we were married.
Oh, that's great. So a cat led to this union, and if you could tell us then, so were both of you dancers before you met? I know that Julian, you have had a dance background. Besides being a provisionally licensed therapist or counselor, you had trained at Arthur Murray School.
So yes, so what happened at that time, we hadn't. My mom was a dancer in her youth, and so I learned a little bit. When I was young, I did some jitterbug and some basic dancing, and I had liked it. And we both attended a college that it was a religious college that kind of discouraged dancing at the time. And so after I graduated, I went and I had decided I wanted to get my degree in clinical counseling. But I kind of felt it wasn't appropriate to be helping other people process through and make decisions in their own lives if I hadn't kind of lived my own life a little. I don't think going from college to college to college to being a professional kind of really qualifies you to kind of say I've really lived life and experienced things a little. So I took a little time off in between schooling, and that was when I actually got into ballroom dancing. I ended up applying and working for an Arthur Murray, and I was trained there, and I worked there for a year and a half before I went back for my master's degree. And through my master's degree, I then continued teaching, training, dancing competitively a little bit. And well, it was ballroom dancing that really, it was part of my application. I learned a lot through ballroom dancing. I learned a lot about relationships, both kind of, well, with myself, with others, and with God. And so that was something I started learning through ballroom dancing, is what it means. Some of the things that I saw and was learning in ballroom dancing, I realized are very relevant to what it means to engage in real relationship on the emotional and relational playing fields. So
that's great. And so, Faith, what did your background in dance look like? Was it a matter of Julian was a dancer and you better learn, or
No, I
or
didn't
did you already
start.
have a background?
I didn't start dancing really till I was 19. As a child, I always wanted to. My sisters were actually in ballet, and it was one of the, well, you're the third child. I can't do what my sisters are doing. I have to do something different. So I looked for various body movement things that I could do, because I was always very in touch with my body and how it worked and what that meant in movement type of things. But I didn't start dancing ballroom until I was 19. I moved to Israel and kind of found some of my freedom and found some studios there. But at a professional level, I really got deeper into it through our relationship, which was the fulfillment of a dream. It wasn't
That's
like,
right.
oh, now jump on board. It was like, yay, I can now afford to dance professionally.
That's great. Well, you know what's really interesting is, I've been teaching Zumba classes for 11 years, and it's 99% women in my class, but occasionally a man will find his way into my class, and I have one that comes regularly. But I always tell the men that are brave enough to come to a Zumba class that men who can dance can rule the world. Because because women want that. They want to have a man who's confident on the dance floor. And I think that what you're saying about it's part of the relationship and teaching you about the relationship is that I'm not saying anything about women's rights or feminism or anything like that, but having that confidence in your partner to take the lead when it's necessary is a really important thing. And so I was so happy when my husband said that he would do this class with me, because he's not a dancer at all. But he knew that it was important to me, and he was really uncomfortable with it for the first, I don't know, 6 months. He was really uncomfortable with it, but now he's much more comfortable with it. So tell us about, like, what we're like, but you've seen a lot of different couples. Tell me about your experience and the kinds of dances that you're teaching, and how your passion for it really just shows up when you were in a class.
I mean, one of the things, dancing in relationship can be hard. One of the things I observed kind of in the, as I was teaching in certain settings is, especially those couples who are competing, there would also often be a lot of drama, a lot of conflict that I saw as you're trying to kind of learn something together. And, oh, he did this wrong, she did this wrong, and it sadly it got ugly sometimes.
In the competitive realm.
In competitive, it just couples who are kind of very intense about like doing this right.
Also, in learning, people often want to blame the other person rather than taking responsibility and saying, what can I do better in my posture and my dance?
So it's challenging, I think, to engage something that is so intimate, and as a couple, we're both learning together, and each individual has their own learning curve, and then there are certain challenges for each part that we play, the leader and the follower. I often have to remind the ladies when we first start off that the guys have a steeper learning curve at the moment, because they're not just learning the steps and the part, but they're also learning how to lead, and the lead has to happen before the follower can kind of, it doesn't require as much thought or preparation for the follower. there's a lot to do, and the discipline of following is in itself very challenging.
Right. Right.
But we each have our part to play, and there are the challenges inherent in each. So I know one of the things that I talk about in just discussing dance is, the unique thing that about ballroom, I don't think our society really fully sees it, because a lot of us, our understanding of ballroom, I think recently has been informed by Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
And Dancing with the Stars is ballroom dancing, but it's choreography. Choreography is when both people know exactly what they're supposed to do, and they're both supposed to memorize their parts. And it looks best when they, lead and follow and do everything perfectly. But if one person messes up, the other person can kind of try to do what they're supposed to. And you're both working together to do the common goal. Whereas true ballroom dancing, lead and follow, is neither of us may know exactly what's coming. And it's this intimate dance where one person goes somewhere and the other person follows seamlessly through these very nuanced and precise movements, the lead and the follow. And so, but it happens in an instant,
Right.
and so it's just you and me, engaging this song, and we just create something uniquely together. And I think there's a lot of beauty, and there's a lot of discipline, and there's a lot to learn in being able to do that together. But that's what's so relational. Like, I think that's the unique thing about ballroom dancing, is truly the lead and follow. That it's not choreography. There are beautiful things in ballet and even what they do in Dancing with the Stars, but it's not the crux of what I think ballroom dancing is.
Right.
And that comes into that relationship of, what does it mean for me to discipline myself so that I can communicate to you, and you can discipline yourself so you can hear that lead, so that you can receive that communication, and we can do this dance as one.
Right. And Faith, what do you think about that? Was that something that was really easy for you to pick up, was to become the follower, or did you have trouble releasing that role of, wanting to be in charge, and how did that work for you? Especially dancing with Julian, who was trained at Arthur Murray, and he knew what he was doing and you knew what you were doing. How did that come together?
Right. So I think particularly dancing with Julian, dancing with someone who's already a good leader, it's just really nice to be a follower. Like I said, I've always enjoyed the idea of connection with my body, and this was much deeper because it was the idea of intimate connection with my partner through that connection that I can feel with my body, and we can communicate through one another's bodies, and that intimate relationship is causing something beautiful to happen on the dance floor. And so kind of just being able to release and not have to think about, well, where's our next step going to be? And is there someone behind me who I need to be watching out for on the dance floor? And, oh, what should we do next? Just being able to release myself and to feel the movement of my partner and follow that is a very enjoyable experience for me. In dancing with people who aren't as trained, it might be preferable to be the follower sometimes, because then you can sort of make things happen that wouldn't happen, which is part of the relational learning curve, I guess, of dancing, is people do learn at different levels, at different rates. And so you might have one partner who hears the music and another one who doesn't, or one partner who just picks up faster on steps or on technique, and another who takes a little longer. And it takes a lot of sort of lowering of the self and patience to say, okay, I'm gonna just dance with you where you're at, and we're gonna move up together, rather than wanting to step in and be the leader and say, okay, well, just let me take over because I know what I'm doing. Because then your partner could never develop. I didn't have that issue in this particular relationship. But it can definitely be a relational challenge of dancing, which is a relational challenge of life. So I kind of think
for sure. Well, and for me personally, I've had a lot of dance partners throughout my many years on this planet. Lots of family members, lots of friends, and most of them had no idea how to lead. And so I had to lead, and it was very comfortable for me, and I was okay with that. But and it feels totally different when you're dancing with someone who can lead you, and when you're used to being the leader, it's really hard to follow. So whenever Corey said that he would do this with me, and I'm guessing that this is true of a lot of couples, that when most of the time it's the man that has to be coerced into going to a dance
Not
class.
always. We've had a
Not
few
always, but
exceptions,
most
but
of the
yeah.
time the women are more open to it. But when he said that he would do that, I was so happy because I thought this is something that we can really do together. And I could feel that he was very uncomfortable with it and was not in his zone.
Right.
But as we were learning together and we started practicing more together outside of class, I could feel the relaxation and I could feel the lead happening more and more. And so it makes it so much easier and so much more connected, like you're saying, because then it's like, okay, tell me where to go. Tell me what to do. Move me the way I'm supposed to go and give me a clue. And it's so much easier now that he knows what to do.
How cool is that as you see him stepping up and taking his role?
Right, which is great. And
It's
then whenever we mess up, we mess up. And sometimes I'm like, no, we were supposed to go this way. He goes, I'm doing the best I can. And I'm like, okay.
No, it's hard. One of the things as a therapist and a counselor, I've looked at as I've been creating. Well, one of the things that my wife and I really want to do, I did it once many years ago before I moved to Israel, was a couples workshop using ballroom dancing as a medium for relationship and communication skills. And that's something we're still talking about and wanting to create and develop and do together. And we're trying to define a time to do that. But I've wrestled with, why is it that the man is the leader, the lady is the follower? And what I think we're both intended to learn something from it. And I know as a man, I can relate to the fear I feel in taking the lead and taking responsibility. And I think it's very easy for me and for many men to shirk that off out of our fear of inadequacy. And so I think there's a need and a challenge in that for the man to step up and to face. I read a very beautiful book called Men of Courage that talks about masculinity as the boldness to initiate and enter the darkness and uncertainty and to create. And that's what you have to do as a leader, is you have to enter the darkness, the unknown. There's no thing that I'm supposed to do. And how do I just give my best to that and engage therein? And I think there's a lot of courage it takes for the men to enter that darkness and to try to create, especially with those fears of inadequacy. And, can I do this right? And I feel weird. And do guys really dance? And so I have to, I'm not a woman, so I don't fully understand it, but I suspect, and maybe my wife, she's, I think, wrestled with this. There's something I think intrinsically feminine that the woman learns as she surrenders control, as she allows herself to be led. I talk to the ladies a lot about, ladies have this false preconception that following means figuring out what the guy is kind of getting you to do. And that's not what following is. Following is not figuring out what step he's leading you in. Following is letting go and allowing him to take you where he takes you. You don't actually have to know what step you're doing or where you're going. It's allowing him to bring you there. And that's a very difficult discipline for the ladies.
Right. Even if it's not the right step, you have to be willing to go with the flow, which is really a fun thing to learn when you finally release that control. So we have literally like 1 minute left because 20 minutes fly by. But I will post in the text with this video a contact email to get a hold of you, Julian, because there might be somebody watching this that is interested in taking a ballroom dance class here locally. You're in Fredericktown, Missouri, and that's where you're having your classes right now. And depending on who else is interested, you might be able to start a new class, or they might be able to join an existing one. And, it's all seasonal as well. So I think it's great that you're offering this on a regular basis. I know that there are other classes that are available nearby that people could do. And if your classes don't work out, go find one that does, because dancing is really a great way to be together and to learn a new skill. And it's so good for our brains to learn dance. And dancing is really one of the only things that has been shown to reduce dementia and Alzheimer's is,
And juggling.
Pardon?
And juggling.
And juggling, yes. And so, I mean, that's really important, is to be able to do those things. So in a 1 minute wrap up, what would you guys like to share?
I would tell the guys, I'm not a dance, I grew up as a kid and I was always intimidated to get on the dance floor. My parents and my brother, they all got out and just started dancing. I couldn't do that. I'm a very mathematical, scientific kind of person, and I needed structure. And one of the things I like about ballroom dancing is it gives us structure, and that's what I teach. I teach the men there's a structure in learning to interpret and learning what to do with the music. And eventually, as you learn that, you might be able to play, but you don't have to just kind of feel like a dancer to be able to do ballroom dancing. You have to be able to, that's my job, is to teach them the structure and teach them what to do with their bodies. And I'm good at that, so I just need more guys who are interested, because I hear a lot of ladies who want to come dancing. They're like, oh, I could never get my husband out there.
So guys, get out there and dance with your lady.
There you go. There you go. That's it. Just do it. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your passion for dance.
Pleasure.